Google Tag Manager blocker, and this will allow you to prevent yourself from triggering Google Tag Manager events from firing on your own website. So once we install the extension, you can just see up here is our Google Tag Manager blocker. I can turn that on. Now if I go on my website and refresh the page, you will see here that Google Tag Manager has been disabled by Google Tag Manager blocker. And now if I turn it off simply with the switch, now my website will, the website that I'm developing, should set up Google Tag Manager. And this requires a little bit of code inside the front end of your website, and this can be seen here. First of all, you need to, over here, insert in the head of your HTML file this meta tag with the name GTM blocker and the content disabled, so that it's disabled by default unless you install the extension. That means it won't cause Google Tag Manager to be blocked, so it's by default disabled. Then in wherever in your code base that you connect to Google Tag Manager with this kind of function here, you simply can access the logic with this code. So we define the constant Google Tag Manager blocker, and we set that equal to the query selector, meta name equals GTM blocker, and that just finds this meta tag here. Now we can have a new value of Google Tag Manager blocker enabled, which is by default false, and if our GTM blocker.content is equal to enabled, then that becomes true, and hence if Google Tag Manager blocker is enabled, we will simply prevent our connection to Google Tag Manager from connecting, which is this block of code here. So all you have to do is insert essentially this little bit of code. This is the key piece of code here. Wherever you want to connect to Google Tag Manager in your front end code base, you simply use this code here. So you can copy this. By default, we set Google Tag Manager blocker to false. Then we select our meta tag, which we've inserted in the head of our HTML document. Then we assign the Boolean value to the variable Google Tag Manager blocker is enabled, and we set that dependent on whether the GTM blocker content is equal to enabled. So if it is enabled, we will return out before connecting to Google Tag Manager, and if it is not enabled, which it isn't by default, then you will connect to Google Tag Manager as normal. So there you go, that is Google Tag Manager. It allows you to easily just switch on and off here, whether or not you're connecting to Google Tag Manager using only a small piece of code.